Hello and welcome back to the Deadlock Collegiate Series. We have an exciting matchup for you all tonight in the round 2 of the playoff series. This is Seattle University versus Colorado State University. My name is Spafflez, and I'm joined by Sorin Markov. Sorin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good Sunday, and it's been, I think, over a week since I was last casting Deadlock, so I'm excited to get back into it.
Yep, I am too. And, especially right off the back with some fresh, hot patch notes on Friday, I'm really expecting some big shakeups here coming towards this meta.
Definitely could be possible. Celeste got a lot of nerfs. Hazel also pretty down there right now. Hayes has kind of shifted back toward being that initiator, assassin pick kind of style that I think a lot of players preferred just generally being in the game. So we'll have to see how that impacts the patch, or the match, rather, going on tonight. I know that we were looking at Seattle, and they've got a lot of Bebop players. Bebop got a couple of things back for him, right? He can now self-bomb, so we'll see if that impacts any of the drafting, see if maybe some of those characters come in tonight.
All right, I'm super excited to see that. Now, to go over a quick overview of the brackets, we are now fully done with the round 1 games. And you can see our upper bracket teams for this week are Northwood and Texas Aggies Maroon. Those are playing their game concurrently with this one, so we'll provide an update for them towards the end of the stream. And we have University of Toronto versus Nebraska Esports. Those, so University of Toronto and Nebraska will be the featured stream tomorrow night, so make sure to tune into that one as well.
That one's going to be a pretty good one. I know University of Toronto and Nebraska are scrim partners. Fantastic anytime those two show off. But down here you see over in match, I believe that's a 5 in losers round 1. We've got Seattle University versus the CSU Rams. So that one is going to be our match for tonight. Seattle were at the top of Group 2. They finished 7-3 in total games, and CSU were the bottom of Group 1. So this is going to be kind of an interesting test to see if these groups stack up against each other.
Yep, and to see CSU come back, right? They were, like you mentioned, at the bottom of Group 1. They won their last chance playoffs qualifier. So to see them in here, they are now ready to fight for their lives in this tournament. Now, like you said, lots of Bebop players there from Seattle. Excited to see them come out. Is there anything else that you might want to prepare us for heading into tonight?
Not a whole lot in terms of scouting. It was kind of last minute here during the prep time for broadcast, but there does seem to be a pretty good spread on both teams in terms of like the different roles on them. So there's a couple of carry players, there's a couple of pick characters. The only thing maybe lacking from both teams is some of that frontline tankiness, and that's could just be because we haven't seen a whole lot of that in the recent meta. But if we do see heroes like Shiv or Abrams or Billy, I'll be interested to see who that goes to, because it doesn't seem like there's like an awful lot of people who play those characters between these two teams.
Yep, and going into it, now that you mentioned Shiv, right? Shiv has been on quite a hot streak in terms of buffs. He got nerfed pretty hard 1 or 2 patches ago, but since then he's been on the up and up. He got his stamina back. His ult has been buffed multiple times. So I definitely think he is a viable contender to be seen here tonight. I mean, the recent patch has definitely tuned down a lot of different characters. I think one that really sticks out to me is Dynamo is still incredibly potent with his reworked Quantum Entanglement. It managed to get away with just a slight cooldown nerf in that latest patch, so I'm excited. Maybe we'll see him tonight.
It's not only the Quantum Entanglement, honestly. I've been going against Dynamos who are doing quite a bit of damage as well, with like the Headhunter and the Stomps as well. Like, Dynamo can get pretty aggressive in this patch, so interesting. See if we'll see that. Okay, all right. Already a bit of heat going on here in the ban. Seattle are going to ban off the Mirage, not surprising. And then Colorado see the same thing that I did, which is that Seattle has a lot of Bebop players. So let's just make sure that guy never touches the field.
Yeah, for sure. And Seattle, they're responding with their first pick onto Lady Geist. I mean, Lady Geist is a super potent character right now, is pretty solid in the early game, but just scales really, really hard in the late game, especially as you max your Soul Siphon. she's going to be doing a lot of damage to your team.
Yeah, that's one of the better M1s in the pool. I'm honestly a little bit surprised it's not Venator, who's generally a bit better than Geist, but we'll have to see if Seattle has something in mind with that Geist build. Colorado State, however, going to go a different route. They're going to pick up the Mo and the Silver first, which is honestly a pretty good start here. Like, Mo has fallen off a little bit since his heyday of a couple weeks ago, but Silver is still definitely dominant in the meta. Probably the best character left to either of these teams, and so that's a pretty potent pick combination between the two of them.
Yeah, lots of hard CC between the both of them as well. We know Mo and Krillolds, but also the Bola from Silver just having a lot of extra recognition, and people really starting to see its value lately. Like you said before, though, Seattle locking in that Venator. They noticed that Colorado don't want it, so they'll snatch up the 1-2 combo for themselves.
Yeah, the 1-2 punch of, okay, I've got a hard carry in the Venator, and then someone who can still do a lot of damage, but maybe doesn't need to be as high souls in the Geist. So the options for Colorado State in terms of getting a late game hero are pretty slim now. You're looking at like Warden or Infernus probably, so hope they pick some of that up. It's gonna have to be in the back half though, as Viscous and Lash come out as the last picks for each of these teams.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy here from CSU, locking in so much extra utility off of the bat. Now, I won't lie, they will have a very solid team fight on their hands, but going into the ban phase without picking an M1 carry, it does feel a little bit dicey. It offers a lot of opportunity here for Seattle to deny them even further. Now, we see Colorado State, they're going to ban out that Page, looking to deny any further support picks. I'm interested in seeing what Seattle do in response.
It's got to be banning, like, Infernus, right? I think Infernus is a bit better than Warden, especially if you're forcing them into this early game sort of style, but alright, they're going to ban out the Yamato instead and try and get away some of the frontline options for Colorado. Not quite sure who that's coming in onto. Might be a targeted pick at Moose, but Moose still has the Infernus available to him, so I think there's plenty for Colorado State in the back half to go for.
Yep, of all the carries that were impacted a lot by the Toxic Bullets nerfs, I mean, Infernus is definitely one of the lesser on that list. Yes, he liked to build it a lot, but that was mostly because it was a generally big item. His dot is still very potent without it. And there you have it. CSU, they do decide to lock in the Infernus.
Not at all surprising, I think. Moose, pretty good on it, and that is going to be one of the, as I said, the best available option to you. Could back it up with the Warden as well for just a little bit more damage than the last stand to really combo with everything else you got, but even if it's just Infernus and, like, Silver, you're probably doing all right. Meanwhile, on the other side, there's Dynamo. We were talking about him beforehand, and he does indeed show up here, so that's going to be kind of Seattle's response in terms of team fight ability and big ultimates that can shape the course of a game. And comboed with the Viscous and now the Ivy, that's a lot of utility coming in.
Yeah, really strong enabling comp there. A lot of focus onto that Venator, onto that Lady Geist as well. I mean, this comp is going to be absolutely terrifying when you get out to the later game. And, you know, one of the current themes with this game is just how hard it is to close out the game sometimes. And a character like Dynamo can really get around that if he's able to hit, you know, 2 or 3 people with his black hole. You're able to crack bases wide open. Now at CSU, they're going to lock in the Apollo and the Rem. So closing out their comp, it's a little bit spirit heavy, but I like the idea that they're going for.
They've got a really dangerous comp for the early game. Like Apollo, Infernus, Lash, Silver, all of these heroes hit their timings before 30 minutes. And so if Colorado State can pressure in the early game, I think they're going to have a really good time. Otherwise, they may just get outscaled by the solo Venator and Geist. Because Seattle don't even really have much for the early game unless they pick up someone here. Like, they're missing kind of a frontliner or a pick hero. Colorado have taken most of the best ones of those already. So if they can get something that helps them survive to the late game, could be big for them. They go with the GT. I think that'll help, but not enough. You need someone to absorb the damage from Colorado State instead of dishing it out yourself.
Yeah, GT's a generically strong laner. He can do some good work out into the mid/late game if he gets ahead, but it's definitely not really what you want to see coming out of this comp. Now, it is still a really strong overall, and, you know, given that games like to go the distance this patch, I definitely will side with Seattle University's comp off the gate here, but it also just depends a lot on the variance that Colorado they're able to bring into this game.
I would agree. I think Seattle have the better draft for what's likely to happen. On paper, talking top of the top teams, I think Colorado State just flat out win in 20 minutes or less, but I mean, if you're not at the very top of Deadlock play, things can drag out, even if you've got more of an early game comp, unless it's a serious mismatch in lane. So I really want to see Colorado State pop off early and show us that you don't have to have an M1 carry late game to do something, but I fear that won't be the case.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those concepts that I learned from League of Legends, but picking one of those low variance drafts where you win just by existing and you put a lot of the pressure onto the other team to play into you to make those big flashy moves, it makes the game a lot easier and less stressful for you to go through. So, I mean, overall, those are the two drafts. And, you know, as we prepare to head into this game, is there anything that you would like to see out of these?
I mean, it's just going to be on this Infernus, I think, mainly for Colorado State to try and do something if it goes a bit later. And so the Infernus moves might be kind of a weather gauge of how this is going to go for Colorado State. If he's able to stay farmed into the late game, they could still have a good time, but they need to be going into the 30-35 minute mark ahead 10 to 20,000 at least, and not even or behind, because if that happens, then Seattle are going to run over them with their Venator. So that's going to be the question for me, is can Colorado State stay ahead through the early game and show us that they've got something, that they've learned from their mistakes in Group 1, but Seattle, on the other hand, is kind of just, can you keep these two alive? Right? You've got so many different tools to save your two carry heroes that if it gets to the late game, you've got like 3 different ways to get them out of dodge.
Yep, and you know, I definitely will not want to, you know, have to match any of the Seattle University carries on the side lanes later on. That's for sure, especially when they're, you know, split pushing and there's an earn fight. An absolute terror.
Yeah, Venator is not someone you want to 1v1 past about 20 minutes, so we'll have to see how it goes. Getting into the game here, we got the lanes forming up. Mid lane is going to be an interesting one, I think. You've got the Venator and the Viscous over here, some decent poke up against Apollo and Rem. And Rem's going to just kind of make sure that this lane stays safe. It's not so much a win harder sort of hero picked for the mid lane, but just making sure that Guardian doesn't face too much pressure. And on the left side, a lot of poke as well against tank.
Yeah, interesting lane assignment there. I would have expected the silver to be put on mid lane so you can roam easier, catch people out with that bola. But it also makes sense to see them where they're currently sat. The Mo and Krill can help them do a lot of damage in lane. It definitely does seem like Colorado are playing for more stability here in this early.
Yeah, which is not really what we expected, right? We want to see Colorado getting aggressive, winning these lanes rather than just staying even. So it's going to be down to the individual performance to make that happen then. And again, moves on this Infernus has got to be a big piece of that up against this Geist Ivy.
Yeah, definitely difficult lane for the Infernus to thrive in, especially Ivy with those ensnaring bombs is going to be able to clear that wave with relatively little threats. Looking into things as the teams are both trading, not too much action happening yet as the tier 1 camps are about to spawn.
Nothing yet, so just goes to being efficient right at this point. A little pressure onto Infernus. I don't think that'll result in very much. Low Tofu, actually, goes down fairly low over in the mid lane. Bit of poke there, but Rem will be able to keep him topped up shortly with that tag along. So who can get these camps now? That is a bit of pressure to Seattle, right? They're able to get that tier 1 in mid, get that Venator off to a slight soul advantage. It's about, can they carry that through the rest of the lane?
Yeah, I mean, I guess seeing the Viscous, seeing the Venator together is a deadly combo, but still, Apollo is not usually a character you'll see dropping down. Now, he didn't have the riposte available to him, so that's a really key stun plus invulnerability part of his kit. But hopefully, once that comes online, he's going to be able to thrive a little bit more in this lane.
Got a gank going on. Venator, or maybe just grabbing those subway boxes. Okay, Venator on a long box run then.
Yeah.
Taking away a lot of the eco. I was hoping we'd get to see some action, but no. Too early for that. We're only at 3 minutes, but instead, again, just about getting fed. Perp already up a couple hundred souls on his lane opponents. Nothing big to write home about, but it is going to mean that next item comes online that little bit quicker. Hopefully the ultimate's here in about 2 minutes as well. Infernus starting with extra spirit into improved spirit. Nothing terribly shocking so far. I guess that's to be expected.
You know, all ending on that after turn damage. You know, skipping the extended mag to go for rapid rounds is definitely a choice. It can feel needed, but without more mag size, it's really difficult to get your burn up in this early game.
Can be. Just means he's got to be all the more accurate, right? Even more pressure on that individual performance to come out from Moose. But there's the first kill coming in. Rockany goes very low, and Wyatt on the GT is all too happy to finish that off. A little bit low there against the silver, but a Dynamo will get him out just fine with that quantum entanglement. So there's finally the first blood that we see, and it goes the way of Seattle.
Yep, definitely not something you want to do, give away a kill to the egg lane. But that is the current state that we're living in. And now at 4 minutes 15 seconds left, we have bridge buffs coming up soon, as well as you know, a really strong opportunity for both of these teams to fight.
Yeah, those ganks come online so much easier once you get that power spike to the bridge buffs. Have to see if that's on the agenda for either of these teams, as early aggression does tend to pay out if it gets a kill. And I know these teams are looking to get something on the board here in playoffs, because if they lose this best of 3, then that's it. That's your season over.
And aggressive play here from the ground lash, and he's going to miss the ground pound onto the Geist, allowing her to escape. Moose catches that stone form right by the edge, but the afterburn ticks up, and now the life drain's required to keep her in the battle. Bradley ends up falling, and it's a good trade there from Moose.
Yeah, it took a lot of damage, but managed to get the kill, even despite all of that. And the guy's just clinging on with the life drain, but too much in the end. And Bradley will be put that little extra behind coming towards swap. And Moose is going to be the first person in the lobby with an ultimate. Rugert and Wyatt following not too far behind.
Yeah, we see Gaber there making their way back to their own lane. And the potential for a Rem roam. Most likely, though, using those vents to go and get some of those juicy box routes and giving their ball a little bit of solo farm at it.
And Tofu has recovered from that early falling behind.
Oh, nice shotgun there.
Aggression, yeah.
The Iradomini comes out, but he's not going to be able to stick his target. Apollo just has too much movement. Now the Arc, back in with the pillow, and the Riposte connects with the Venator. It's going to be the cube that saves him.
Yeah, Purpose sitting just fine there. Just barely missed that last shot onto the rim, which probably wouldn't have gotten a kill here onto Naturecast, but would have at least forced some pressure onto the rim. So now full ultimates online from the board. Bradley and Rockney, the last ones to come in. Lash under a bit of pressure as well. So Seattle, this is their time to try and do something. Lash comes in with the ultimate. Manages to pick up Ivy, and a stun from the Infernus will follow that up. That's a kill there onto Vengeance. Lash maybe gonna be traded out for it. 100 HP, he will escape. Infernus instead left to pick up the pressure.
Yeah, really nice play there from Moose, able to use the flame path under the turrets to pick up that second kill. It's a very good turn of events, and this is exactly what you want to see from your Infernus, who's supposed to carry this one.
Exactly. These 3 kills now stacking up on that right side could prove to be a burden too much for Seattle's early game, especially if it's followed up with more here onto this Dynamo, who's looking fairly low but still has the quantum entanglement. That tower, though, not so lucky.
Yep, the Singularity comes through, able to buy himself a little bit more time, but he does end up falling eventually. And now the Silver is fighting for her life. Viscus not quite able to get on top of her just yet, and it's forced to keep himself. But now the GT needs to clean this up. They're able to get that trade back onto Ballin' Dog.
Yeah, and Rockney still not there. The combo, I believe, came in during that fight, but wasn't able to find much. And so Seattle do hold on to that left side Guardian. But that is the weakest one on the board. Second weakest is this one that now Viscus is pushing, this mid lane for Colorado. They need to hold on here as well.
Yep, looking here for this Guardian. Maybe a pretty aggressive play, but they are going to get it without much contention. And it looks like they're going to be able to trade it back on the other side of the map. Ballin' Dog going in for this one. And he is able to claim it before the reinforcements arrive.
Yeah, just a 1-for-1, but as we hit 8 minutes, that mid Guardian is going to be a lot more valuable for Seattle than this side one. As those centers come up, and there's just so many more of them around mid, and that's much more pressure for this Venator to start popping off.
Yeah, this Furnace is definitely not someone you want to be creating aggressively into while you're down about almost 2k. On the side of the map, though, the nap time comes through onto the Viscous. He's barely able to escape. He gets taken down eventually, though. And that ball doesn't carry too much momentum if you're napping on that job.
Nope, you can't even roll to safety when you're completely asleep, so... An unfortunate mishap there for Gaber, but now that is more resources being traded away, and now you see Colorado kind of looking toward that mid Guardian. They've got 3 roaming around there. So far, the focus seems to be just on the farm, as Seattle will respond with 3 of their own. So now these side lanes become the focus. Combo instead comes in. Quantum Entanglement trying to save you there, and will manage to get out successfully. And now the big 3-on-3 here in the middle could decide the fate of the farm.
Yep, the Mo and Krill walking forward, no fear, and the Colorado State, they really want this. You mentioned it before, how important having the mid Guardian is, and they are investing a lot into it. Now, the riposte doesn't connect with anything yet. It is going to be a dive there with the Lycan Curse. Not going to find anybody just yet, but the Apollo ult does come through. At the end of this extended fight, Vinjin ends up falling down, and Seattle are scattered.
The Ivy pays for that with her life. Unfortunate that you couldn't win a raw team fight there, but Venator did at least manage to get out to a side lane to get that extra farm, and also a pretty much free Guardian there. I believe all of Colorado State was busy on the right side and mid. So that's, again, a trade-off of Guardians between these two teams, and the right side is the only one left standing with any Guardians, and it's got both of them.
Yep, and, you know, it makes a lot of sense for Colorado's side, seeing, you know, Moose has been dominating through this lane. Seattle's been doing a good job at neutralizing, at least for now. Bridge buffs are coming up, and it's going to be Seattle that actually claim both sides. So it is definitely a good advantage for them, especially if they're looking for this early earn pickup.
Good recognition of the timers from them. And that earn will be going their way should they choose to get it. But Silver instead under some pressure. The Iridomini comes out. Silver down to about half HP, and she's still got chasers. The Great Talonbird comes in. Big stun, and that'll be a kill for Perp. Yet another reason to add to this man's soul economy. Almost 10k now. It's a pretty good start for Seattle.
You know, pretty solid. And now you have that Viscous carrying the urn across the map. Now, Moose is positioned correctly here to be able to deny this. It's going to be a little dicey once both of these teams have enough time to approach it. One thing to point out, though, is the Rem is on the other side of the map.
All right, just have a small audio bug that we're going to clear up real quick, and we'll get back to it once we get there. But yeah, that urn is going to be a big inflection point for these teams, as first urn is, you know, it's kind of underrated. It's only 3,500 souls, but that's 3,500 souls that you won't get anywhere else on the map.
Yep. You know, looking at the urn, right? We saw that the Rem was out of position, so you're really losing out on a lot of the supportive capabilities going into this fight. Having Moose in position does help you a lot with that, and I think this is going to be one of the major points that will really decide the course of the rest of the match. We stopped off there with a soul differential about 2 to 3k. Looks like we're coming back here, and the Colorado State, they managed to pull the fight off.
Yeah, Rim was able to get over there, probably through the tunnels after shoving up that left side, and Venator instead is the one missing from the fight, so that's 4 kills going the way of Colorado State. Earn managed to get away, at least. Gaber is going to keep that one safe for Seattle, but, I mean, that is a loss of all of the lead that Seattle had built up through the early game.
Yep, now Seattle, they still do have possession of this urn, so they're going to try and walk it around a second time. And now with a lot of ults off of the board, potentially they're going to have an opportunity to get it in here.
Yeah, Venator actually managed to take a solo walker on the left while we were away, and now he's going to join in this fight and be a big threat at 14k.
Yep, good life drain there from the Geist, is able to chase that Mo and Krill back away. But the urn is still a long way off. The Mo and Krill does end up getting taken down in the end. And there's nothing Moose can do other than just watch for now.
No, too many members of Seattle there. They're trying to get a split push of their own going, but that left side is just pushed up so far with the loss of that walker. They're not even going to manage to really get there in time for Seattle. And instead, that's that lead, you know, coming back. Colorado managed to win the fight, but Seattle took the macro game and came back in souls from it, and now they're even up a flex slot.
Yep. solid outcome for them overall, and now you got to look at this, right? The timer is ticking. They need to get up in souls, and Colorado, they don't have too many opportunities to do this. They'll have the urn coming back up in about a minute and a half, but aside from that, you don't really have too many high variance plays that you can make at this stage of the game.
No, you need to be getting active with Rockney and Ball and Dog, kind of your pick combo, and then like someone to do some damage as well, whether that's Tofu or Moose. But you can't just play this passive farm game if you want to have a hope of surviving against Seattle, because right now, I mean, despite the early game strength of Colorado State's draft, I kind of prefer Seattle in the 6v6 once we get this Singularity back online. And I mean, more worrying than just the raw soul count of a 2,000 to 3,000 soul lead is the fact that Perp is a good bit more than that ahead of anybody on Colorado State.
Yep, matching him is going to be a challenge of its own, although if they do roll out the hit squad, I can definitely see them managing to pull it off. One of the biggest challenges is, right, you have your hyper carry, your most fed character, is matching the Venator, and he's going to have a really difficult time here as the Iridomini comes out. The Quantum Entanglement pulls them forward, and he's not going to be able to hit that last shot. It's going to be the bird instead.
Hey, that's more spirit stacking for Grey Talon, so, I mean, kind of give and you take there, as it means that Perp doesn't get quite as many souls from that kill, and is under pressure from the Apollo now, but he'll probably have enough backup here to be able to get out. It's a close thing, but there is a response on the other side from Seattle getting this pick off onto Ball and Dog as well.
Yep. Strong plays here as Ball and Dog does end up falling out. The Venator able to escape back to safety.
Headed to Greenwich.
Ultimately, the map remains neutral through all of these trades, as the teams are able to defend. And with the urn coming up, and it's going to actually be a comeback urn for Colorado State, this is another one of those big opportunities for them.
It is. This first comeback urn is maybe the biggest moment if you're behind in Deadlock, and so this is going to be Colorado State's chance to get back into this game. They are down about 9,000 now. That ballooned from just a few minutes ago when it was only about 3, so Seattle really looking to put the pressure on, as this urn is going to be the focus. You've got the Venator in his side lane in the 1v1 against the Infernus. That's going to be something to keep your eye on as Viscus looks here to delay.
Yep, misses the puddle punch there, and the dunk is going to go through without much contestation. The combo comes out onto the Viscus. He has so much health, he has the cube to get his way out. Now the Dynamo and the Ivy going in deep. The nap time comes out too. And the Quantum Entanglement there defends everyone, and this fight drags on. Moose is going to be the one to fall, but Benjamin inch back out shortly after that. Lightning First in full effect, able to shred that Geist apart. Colorado ultimately able to come out positive from this trade. See this out of the map though, Perp is just eating up another block.
Yeah, won the 1v1 against Moose and let his team kind of fall by the wayside there at the urn. Overall, I'd say that's a positive trade for Colorado State, but obviously that flex slot is going to mean a lot once we get a bit later in the game if they're not able to trade it out. And Perp being on 24k is... I mean, that's scary, right? If you're looking at the other side of the board and there's a Venator half again your soul count, like, it is not looking very good if you try and take a 1v1 against this guy. And so that's why I was saying, like, Colorado State needs to be playing active here more than just playing the objectives. You need to get into the farm and really catch these guys off guard if you want to end this game early, because otherwise Perp is just going to make mincemeat out of you.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? Is you have your fed Infernus running up against an even more fed Venator in the same lane. Things might not exactly go your way, especially when they have their Dynamo, who has max Quantum Entanglement already, acting as their personal Dispel magic. Now, there is still going to be an opportunity here thanks to that urn getting dunked in. But again, Seattle are continuing to pull that lead apart just after it got closed.
Generally, the farm is going to favor Colorado State just a little bit here because of comeback mechanics, but I mean, as I said, you see how passive they're playing. There's everyone on their side of the map except this Rem, who looks to be getting in the tunnels, getting a little active. Manages to get away from the Venator just barely in time, but I mean, besides that, Colorado State are playing this like they have a late game plan. And I wonder if that's a mistake, or if maybe they really do have something cooking here with the amount of team fight ability from Rim and Lash and Apollo coming in. But I really want to see Rockney on this mode getting those ultimate stacks to be more beefy and getting the pickoffs, as it looks like Seattle's actually the one getting active here onto this Apollo.
Yep, the base is no safe haven for you, Tofu, as you're able to shut you down. Now the combo coming out onto the Viscous, trying to escape. He is held in place, but no damage is dealt to him just yet. The Silver is there to help secure that kill, though. And the Geist was, able to make it out. Or wait, she died.
Yeah, and while that's happening, it's about to be a third solo walker for Perp, but no, Colorado will get there in time, as that mid walker is fairly tanky at this point. So, okay, Colorado managed to get a +1 trade there, and that's not nothing. They're going to try and go mid-boss off of this with a couple of ultimates up. This is probably the make-or-break point for them. If they can take this and get a bit of tempo back into this game, they've got a shot. But if Seattle come in here, get a couple of picks, and steal the crystals for themselves, it is all but over. Big moment here.
Yeah, with how short those respawn timers are, Seattle is fully on this mid-boss, and it's going to be Ruger to keep your eye out on. That Singularity is going to be terrifying. Question comes through the nap time as well. The Singularity catches two, and the Bird on top of that. There's going to be 3 rejuices for Colorado State. They consume 1 already for Moose, but Perp is down. The Dynamo is not long for this world. And even though Silver does end up using one of their last rejuves, they are still coming out on top from this fight.
You have 1 rejuve still in the pocket and 3 dead for Seattle. The rest not looking too healthy either. I mean, that's just worst case scenario. Seattle are not in position to make use of the Dynamo ult, which gets canceled out early by the combustion anyway. And then Perp goes down immediately as soon as the fight starts. Like, there's just nothing in that fight for Seattle. So Colorado State with exactly what they needed in this moment. And now with Buffs and Urn about to come up, they've got the tools to be able to push it forward as well. That is a clutch moment for Colorado State's hopes in Game 1.
I mean, it looked so good, but where do you think that fight really fell apart?
I think it was just the rejuves. There was nobody from Seattle there to physically punch the crystal, despite Ruger getting the stun onto a couple of them. And, I mean, once Colorado State had 3 extra lives, and which have now dwindled down to 0, but still, there wasn't really much for them to be able to do.
Good play there from Wyatt, capitalizing there onto Orimer's greed and able to get out that last rejuve. That's a lot of extra stats that you're depriving of your enemy. And now, yes, they did make that massive soul swing where they gained about 15k off of that fight alone. Things are starting to come back for yourselves a little bit.
Yeah, Seattle actually picked up the Urn, so no chance for Colorado State to really push that tempo on their own clock. Instead, it's going to be Seattle dictating the pace of the next team fight. And that's not really what you want, because it gives them plenty of time to get this Singularity back online to make this team fight really their own. And, I mean, Perp is down to a manageable soul lead, but it's still bigger than anyone you got here. But this Grey Talon with a couple of bird stacks is dishing out the damage against Silver.
Yep, lots of solid aggression here. The guy that Owl does come out. It's time for the parkour, and Mullen Dog stood no chance with the Venator on his tail as well.
Even more bird stacks. I mean, as much as we're talking about Venator as a late game carry, honestly, with how many birds Wyatt has been getting and the rest of the team setting him up for them, he might be doing just as much damage once we get there. I mean, 7k souls down doesn't matter if you've got 60 extra spirit power.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Perp's farming has slowed down a little bit. Part of that due to that big mid-boss fight as well. Now, positioning here for the Urn, it does look like Seattle are going to be able to get it in relatively uncontested, especially with the ults they have in the bag.
Yeah, 3 members of Colorado not quite there. Silver just coming off respawn, and so now Ruger does manage to dunk that one in. Singularity not quite online, and he's quite low. Has to try and get out with a Warp Stone, but Infernus right on his tail. Moose trying to make something happen in this fight with the combustion, but he's down so low, and that's Moose out of the fight. Perp still available, no Iridomini, but it doesn't particularly matter as Bradley is in there doing good work as well. Rockney and Orm are down to 1 HP as the Apollo tries to get a chase down. Nothing doing, and instead it's the Bone Krill that goes down. Colorado State looking fairly low in this. Geist melted though as Volendog makes a smack back.
Yep, super bloody fight there. A bit of speculative investment on my part. Seeing how close Ruger was to the Singularity, wasn't able to pop it while everybody was stacked on top of each other, and that just made the fight drag out so much, and ultimately resulted in Bradley dying. but they were able to still get 3 really solid trades there onto Colorado State, and they got that urn, so again, catapulting themselves back into that soul lead.
It's just a small lead, though. I think Colorado State have been doing a good job of denying the souls from the urn, even when they don't deny the dunk itself, so it's about 40% of the souls of the urn that get tossed up in that little confetti party. So Colorado State at least making do with what they can, and now looking to get a pick on this Ivy, being active exactly like they need to be here.
Yep, really good catch there onto Vengeance, denying so much of that uptime. And I think that might be one of the things that we undervalued a bit going into this, right? On paper, just head-to-head, Colorado, they do fall off a lot in that later game. But when it comes to picks, right, when you're picking against 3 supports, it's going to be really hard for Seattle to spread themselves well enough to cover all of those potential angles.
That's true. You've really only got a couple of people who can stand in a solo lane and deliver. So Colorado still going to have that pick nature even once we get a bit further into this game. But here at 24 minutes, they're trying to do something with these good waves and just being completely rebuffed by this Viscous.
Yep, now lanes are shoved in for Colorado State, so they're able to get some pressure out onto these walkers. We see Seattle, all grouping here onto this left side. They're looking to make something happen. On the right side of the map, we have an Infernus and Venator staring each other down yet again.
That's just the tale of this game. It's about who can carry harder, and right now Perp is pulling ahead, but the rest of the team matters as well. And Vengeance on this Ivy at only 18k after a couple of unfortunate deaths is kind of a weak link for Seattle at the moment. Would love to see him just kind of bodyguard Perp, honestly. Use that ultimate to get him around wherever he needs to be in these fights, and put the tether on him permanently once you get that max to increase that fire rate. But that's about all you're reduced to on this Ivy right now. You don't have the damage to do much else.
Yep, it is a little bit of a struggle here as the urn does come up. We see the GT looking for those angles. Moankrill taking a lot of damage. Ooh. He's going to back up just a little bit for now. Both of these teams are, still in the preparation stage. Airdrop comes through from the Ivy. It's not quite looking to use it aggressively just yet.
No, everyone's just posturing for this urn. Meanwhile, Geist has actually found an angle onto this mid-walker. That's going to go down while everybody's fussing about here on the right side, and 2 members of Colorado State pushing the left is not really going to be enough to get this walker in trade, I don't think.
Yep, we see Seattle in full force, rotating over to this. Viscous alone might not be enough to defend, but especially with everyone coming over for the urn too, it's going to be a really bloody fight if you want to make your way through to this walker now. Having all 3 of your flex slots online does offer a lot of extra buying power here for Seattle.
It does, and especially that Geist with 6.4k is going to make good use of it here. I'd imagine a Spellslinger is in the cards soon for Bradley. And mid-boss is back up as well, so this fight could be pretty big here, but it seems like Colorado aren't even going to try. They may try and go mid off of this, or just pick off Bradley. There's nothing for Seattle to get there in time, and that will be a pick onto the Geist. It's a good piece off the board, but can you even take anything off this?
Good on them for identifying that they couldn't contest this, but now the fight's been dragged over to the mid lane instead. Nap time comes out, but the Singularity as well secures one. Apollo gets taken out. Moankrill shortly after that too. Iradomini pulled out for Perp, and Ball and Dog is going to be running for their life. Some comes through from the bird, and it's just going to be delaying the inevitable here as Silver tries to make a desperate escape.
I'm doing a good job so far, but now you're being chased down by a GT, and that arrow barely misses. Infernus, while we're talking about this, did manage to get the solo walker on the right side, and Lash now looking to pick up the one on the left, so Seattle have let their flex slot lead loosen here in these last couple of minutes, but they're going to try and take a mid-boss and make sure that that doesn't prove to be too much coming in here.
Yeah, lots of powerful ultimates up here for Colorado, but I doubt that they're going to be able to make it here on time. They're going to be pretty happy getting those 2 walkers, freeing themselves from slot jail. And it looks like it's just got to be that way for now. You see the GT snare coming out on top as well. There's absolutely no way for you to get in here and contest in time.
No, and the lanes weren't there either. That mid lane was the only one that Seattle really had shoved up, and shockingly, that's the only one you really need for mid-boss pit, so they'll now back off and make sure that their other lanes get fed. Nice little soul boost here for Bradley, who does indeed have that Spellslinger online. So Geist starting to become a real problem in addition to this Venator. So Colorado State now have the 2 big threats to worry about at the same time, and 3 rejuves keeping them up. So Moose has a tall task at this stage of the game, but even more than that, honestly, I'm looking at the rest of Colorado State to make use of their CC to set him up.
Yep, there's definitely a lot of power in the CC of this comp. What I'm looking at the next about 3 minutes, what I'm looking for is for some of those base guardians to start getting threatened. And we do have the urn coming up in a minute and a half, and it's not a big enough gap for it to be a comeback urn. So Colorado, a little bit of future telling here, but I doubt they're going to be able to contest that. So we're most likely going to see a fight get dragged out very late towards the end of these rejuves.
That's exactly what you want it to be if you're Seattle, because it means even less time before the next mid-boss if you're able to take that fight. But something I'm a little bit surprised about here from Seattle is we were just taking a look at the items there. There's no silence waves online for them. So many members of Colorado State get shut off by being silenced that really would have expected that to be picked up, especially with how Silence Wave has been trending in the meta recently. But instead, everybody mostly focusing on damage. You see Dynamo now picking up the Refresher. That's going to be a big tool, especially since he's already got the Duration online. So a bit less of that damage-oriented Dynamo and just the full ult bot here for Ruger. And I mean, can't really deny that it's been getting value so far.
Yep, now with the lanes fully shoved up, the Seattle are able to demand a lot of control of these jungle camps. They're able to really deny most of the farm, and this is part of that death spiral that you have after Rejuve, where you're just going to continue to see that lead widen. Now, I think that we're far enough for this to be a comeback run, but Seattle are still strong enough to be able to fight this if they want to.
Yeah, it's going to be close. 19,000 soul lead. Seattle have barely eclipsed that, I believe. I can't do math that quickly on broadcast. I shouldn't even try. Instead, Seattle will do it for me, as they'll pick up this urn and we'll find out exactly what happens here. But even if it is a comeback urn, I think it's gonna be a favorable fight for Seattle. And with it being at mid, Colorado are gonna really struggle to do anything here.
Yeah, we see the Dynamo there just taking a straight shot down through mid. Nobody is going to be able to walk up and overextend themselves to contest him. And then this opens the door, right? We have a minute left on these rejuves. What are Seattle going to look for next?
They've got to look for a couple of picks into the base guardians if they want to continue pressing the objectives. They've only got 45 seconds on these rejuves, so they need to make it quick. But if they don't manage to do that, then it's kind of just back to the farm game, right? They've eliminated most of what's on the Colorado side of the map, so there's very little opportunity for them to come back into this. It's just about securing their own and making sure there's nothing.
Yep, Venator just gunning down that base guardian, making sure that, you know, even if you do want to come stop me, you know, I've still got another 20 seconds of effective invulnerability. We do see the Dynamo going in deep with the Singularity. He's able to catch the Rem and the Apollo. Both of them get taken down. I mean, that was a surprise for us on the cast. I can't believe, I don't want to know what it was from the player's perspective.
Imminent doom is what it was, but it did result in 2 solid picks here, and Ormer just barely manages to make it out to base, and so now Colorado being pressed in their own base. They do manage to find a pickoff onto Vengeance just after the rejuves expire. So Seattle gonna have to worry about their own base now as they back off. They don't manage to get a shrine, but they did at least pick off those base guardians for a little bit of extra map pressure.
Yep. Now the defense is in full force. We see, you know, ultimately the troopers weren't doing so much damage. Seattle, though, they're hiding, they're lurking, they're waiting to get it, and it looks like Mo and Krill is going to be the one to get taken out. Colorado, they're losing a key member here.
Yeah, that's your pick potential kind of offline. Didn't have the combo, so, I mean, was less effective in the fights, but even still, you'd love to have that little bit of extra frontline, and you'd love for Wyatt to not have that bit of extra spirit power, as the bird once again is the finishing blow there. I would like Seattle to back off and just take care of that left lane, just in case someone like Moose decides to go for a cheeky backdoor onto the shrines. We already see that left one down to half HP just from these troopers, but that looks like it. Okay, Bradley's going back now to make sure that one stays in the bag. So Despite that pick, I don't think Seattle are really going to get aggressive here and try and take anything more. They'll just back off, wait for the next mid-boss, and make their play. They're in the driver's seat. The game goes their way if it goes standard, so they may as well just play safe.
Yep, makes a ton of sense there, and I didn't see any rumblings on those minions there at the end, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the reason that those troopers made it all the way into the base and were able to crack one set of base guardians for themselves. So overall, macro-wise, things are still pretty even, though Seattle still do have a pretty demanding lead on this map.
Yeah, not to mention that mid-walker, so each of the souls that Moose has isn't going to be as efficient. Nice pick off there onto Wyatt. That's a good amount of spirit power off the board for Seattle. And what do you try and get off of this if you're Colorado? Because you can't really push the mid-walker into 5 alive teammates. You can't really get mid-boss. I guess that's just a pick for the soul's sake. And I mean, if that's what you can get, then you absolutely take it. But Colorado need to be doing a bit more than that. They need to be staying active with this Mo and Krillin. It looks like they're looking somewhere around mid for it.
Yep, hunting in deep there. They don't quite know it yet, but there's an Ivy right around the corner. And I think they smell her. They're hunting her down. Not quite able to get there with the Warp Stone. Doesn't have that kind of reach. 50 seconds left, though, on Wyatt. The call was not made yet for a mid-boss, but there's very little that you can do currently.
Yeah, I do like that they're staying aggressive, though. Like I called them out for this a bit earlier in the game of not looking for these picks, and now it seems like they've made that call that, hey, we need to be getting some kills here going into things. And, okay, I don't know if I like this call, though. This might be too aggressive. You're playing into a black hole and a Fed Venator. Like, this is going to be murder if Seattle can get here in time.
Yeah, but we got to remember what happened on that first mid-boss, though. Colorado were able to make that comeback. Now the Lashkas get caught out onto that high ground, and without your Death Slam, things are looking a lot worse. They are choosing to continue into this, though, as we do get a full drop down into that mid-boss pit. The combo comes out. Don't quite see who it caught. Be the nap time as well. Apollo gets blown up. And the silver is not long for this world as the singularity just spinning on that cube. It is an absolute death hallway here as Colorado State, they lose 4 members. And you know what? Make that 5 while you're at it. Make it 6.
There's the opposite of the earlier mid-boss. That's the worst case for Colorado State. Like, you had one pick, yes, but Seattle were just so strong to be able to take that fight, and especially after Orimer was picked, that should have been the big red get out button for the rest of Colorado. Maybe just trapped in there, couldn't do that. So now Seattle with 3 rejuves and a 40,000 plus soul lead. And Venator's already on the base. Like, this is looking to be the end of the game for me. I don't think Colorado can come back from this one.
Yep, shrines are being raised, and as the patron does get knocked down, you are going to see a reduction in those respawn timers. There is still going to be an opportunity, but 3 rejuves, full team alive, you'd be hard-pressed here to defend.
Nevertheless, Seattle will back out, at least for now. Might just be to grab the gun buff and, buy something from the urn, but that still gives Colorado enough time to shove out these lanes, make something of it. I really would have preferred to see Seattle just stay in the base there and take a fight, but maybe the thinking is they'll just wait for this singularity to come back online from Rugert, and that'll be the go button. Either way, I think Seattle's gonna be able to pull this out. It's not so much a question of that was their only chance as they're gonna play it safe again and make sure they can take it here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, being in lower brackets of the playoffs, you have no more of that safety net. You want to make everything as safe and as clean as possible. Now, both these teams, they've pretty much got their whole suite of ults online. Rugert's Singularity is going to be the last one, but realistically here, Seattle shouldn't need it given that they have a +3 life counter just constantly going.
Yeah, and that's why you see them posturing for this here. Like, they're not afraid of going in despite being down the Singularity. And it's up to Colorado State to figure out a way to come back into this. They need a big Lash ultimate or some kind of pick-off from Rockney to come in here onto an important target, like Perp. And instead, it's Ballendog who's caught out early.
Yep, even with the Lightning Curse, even with the Unstoppable, you're not able to escape from that much damage, and the Iridomini is able to do so much to poke them out. Patron is dropping low, nobody's in the pit yet, giving them vulnerability. Death Slam catches 3 and tosses them away. Combo comes out, but the cube is there to neutralize it, and they can't leave this pit, otherwise the Patron is going to lose that invulnerability. Nobody's been able to find trade yet. and it just keeps getting worse. Moen kill does get picked off. Singularity gets found into that back line, and the Arch Brothers at 1 HP. Seattle University able to claim map 1.
And things played out pretty much exactly as Seattle needed to. Colorado, they got a little bit of that early tempo, but it wasn't nearly enough, and despite a pretty impressive mid-boss take, they didn't get a whole lot off of it, and just failed to keep the tempo up in that early game, and exactly textbook as you would have it for Seattle's draft. Venator came online, Geist came online, Dynamo had double ult, and there was just nothing that Colorado could do to take a team fight on any sort of objective.
Yeah, I mean, that was as textbook as you're going to get. I also saw a quick glimpse there. The Dynamo had Refresher, so in reality, he did have that ultimate. It was just greeting it out a little bit more to see if he could get a double ulti. But, I mean, all things considered, that was a pretty pop-off showcase for Seattle, and is proving that they really have what it takes to make it to the next stage.
And kind of, I called it out a couple of times, but Wyatt here was doing a pretty good job on the Grey Talon. I thought they maybe would have been better served by having some sort of early game, hero to keep them alive, like a frontliner, maybe Billy. But I mean, the Grey Talon seemed to work out pretty well for them. He got the bird stacks, was doing, I saw at the end there, almost 1,500 with a single arrow onto Orimer's Lash, which is going to be a lot of damage in those stacked up fights, and that's what helped them through some of those rejuve battles. But other than that, I mean, you see all of the stats going the way of Perp on this Venator. Got an early lead and was never really caught up to, so that's exactly the kind of performance you need if you want to advance further into this playoffs.
Yep, I mean, big spotlight there onto Perp and Wyatt, but, the triple support comp really did prove out, this is why we draft so many enablers, because no matter who is paired up with these two carries, we're going to be able to, 2v3, 2v4 even your enemy team, or at least get out with our lives. So pretty solid performance there overall. Now, we are going to be sending you over to a quick break before we head up with the next match of this playoff. Thank you so much for watching.